Good evening, and thank you for joining us on this Tuesday night. Tonight, what could be a major escalation in Russia's war in Ukraine after 2 missiles crossed over the border into Poland, a NATO country, killing 2 people. Ukraine's President Zelensky says the world must act. The Biden administration says it's working with the Polish government to gather information and can't confirm details. The head of NATO just called an emergency meeting for tomorrow morning. Article 5 of the alliance states that any attack on one member is an attack on all of its members. The only time Article 5 has been invoked was in response to the September 11th attacks on the United States. And there's this news tonight. President Biden officially asking Congress for $37 billion in emergency aid for Ukraine. All this comes as Russia unleashed more than 90 airstrikes, primarily at Ukraine's energy facilities, causing widespread blackouts. CBS's Chris Livesay will start us off tonight from inside Ukraine. Good evening, Chris.
Good evening, Nora. Poland has put its military on heightened readiness. It's a scenario we've always feared since the start of the war. What would happen if a nearby NATO ally were struck, either by accident or otherwise? We're about to find out. Tonight, in one of Russia's biggest missile strikes since the start of the war, 2 rockets landed outside Ukraine and in neighboring Poland, a NATO member, killing 2 civilians. It is unclear whether they were Russian rockets or Ukrainian air defense missiles. The blasts occurred roughly 7 miles from the Ukraine border at a grain silo in the town of Przewodów. The Polish government held an emergency meeting, as did other nearby NATO countries, amid concerns about whether this could be considered an attack, triggering Article 5 of the NATO Charter. To fire missiles at NATO territory, this is a Russian missile attack on collective security, said Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. This is a very significant escalation. We must act. In Ukraine, Russia fired more than 90 missiles around the country, most intercepted, others hitting residential buildings and plunging 10 million households into darkness after the electrical grid was targeted, Ukraine says. All of it believed to be an act of retaliation. 4 days ago, Moscow retreated from the critical city of Kherson. It's a double-edged sword, as one Ukrainian mayor tells me. Because it seems like every time there's a Ukrainian military victory, there's a retaliation against Ukrainian civilians.
Sure, they act like, injured dog. So they try to bite everyone after they get hit.
Russia has issued a statement denying it fired missiles near the Ukraine-Poland border and called it, quote, a deliberate provocation in order to escalate the situation. Nora?
Chris Livesay, thank you.